Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to another session of Microsoft Zero to Hero community. It is Nardad Abdullahi. I'm very excited to host this amazing session, which is going to be related to the API management by Dinusha. And if you just missed the other sessions from Microsoft Zero to Hero community, you're more than welcome to just watch them on YouTube channel. So let me share my screen and let's just walk around the slides that we've got here. First of all, of course, you know about the Microsoft Learn and Microsoft Learn communities, but just in short, it is a tech hub for all experts and learners. Like us, everyone is a learner in the Microsoft landscape, and we always keep learning the new things in the community and the learning rooms that we've got in for actually Microsoft Learn. We can just connect with the other experts and just ask more questions there. We will have the conversation, engaging conversation with them. You can just meet your peers and just share your experience, ask questions, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of other learning rooms. Of course, Microsoft Zero to Hero is one of the biggest ones, and which is covering all aspects of the Azure services within Microsoft and Azure landscape. So you're more than welcome to just find it in the link that is shown here, which is aka.ms/ Microsoft Learn community, and joining whatever learning room that you would like. If you would want to just directly link, join to Azure, actually Microsoft Zero to Hero community, I will share the link later. So as you know, we are still in the era of Microsoft Build. So it was done on May in Seattle, and also it was online. Of course, we still have the active challenges in Microsoft Build. And the resources and the recorded videos are also available still there, and you can just watch them as you need. And in Microsoft Build, in the Build month of May and June, we have an exclusive calendar which is exclusively for Microsoft Build, and we will have various sessions within the week, and even for today, for example, we had 2 sessions in a row. And just feel free to join whatever that you are interested in that regard. Sorry. And we've got a code of conduct in community. Of course, all of you are going to adhere to them, but we should be, just aware of others, be friendly and patient to each other, and be welcoming and respectful. And we should be open to all questions and viewpoints and understanding of the differences. And of course, we'll be kind and considerate others. And today we have Dinusha, which is actually related to Dinusha station, which is related to using Azure API Management, which is one of my favorite topics in integration section. And as you can see, we have him here. Let's bring him up to the stage. And hey, Dinusha, how are you?
Hello.
Welcome to Microsoft Zero to Hero.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me in this stage.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, Dinusha, have you joined any sessions of Microsoft Build?
Little bit, not everything, but it's very interesting.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Cool. If you would like to share your screen, I can just add it to the stage. But guys, during the session, during the presentation of Dinusha, feel free to add your questions to in the comments. Then from there, at the end of the session, we can just show them, and Dinusha will answer them. So I'm going to just be in the backstage, Dinusha. I will just share. You can share your screen here, and yeah, good luck, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks again. Thank you for having me. And I'm excited to be part of the Zero to Hero community. And today we will talk about how we can effectively and securely implement an API ecosystem with Azure API Management Service. Let's move to the next slide. So I'm Dinusha Kumarasiri, currently working at NCS Australia as an enterprise architect and currently reside in Perth, Western Australia. I'm a Microsoft MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer. You can reach me through LinkedIn and my blog, where I share my adventures with the cloud. Let's move to the agenda of the session. We will first discuss the API management pattern in general. Then we will move to Azure API Management Service. Then we can discuss various features that API management offer. I will do some demos throughout the presentation. Let's start with the API management as a pattern. First of all, what is an API? APIs allow software solutions to exchange information, isn't it? And an organization may have many data points and such APIs to deliver value. If you don't have a proper orchestration and governance, it will be very hard to manage your API endpoints. API management as a pattern can be very handy in such occasions where it introduces a set of processes, rich toolset, and policies to facilitate the entire life cycle of APIs. API publishers would author and manage such APIs through an API management interface. Those APIs are then discovered by developers, maybe in the same organization or external to the organization. However, they may not be aware of the actual backend APIs or policies associated with them, as there is a wrapper between the actual backend API and themselves. With available APIs, developers can build rich solutions that add value to the business. So this will be the infrastructure. This will be the architecture of the API management pattern in general. Let's see what are the key features of an API management solution and what are we trying to achieve. It allows us to create API endpoints and link with backend APIs. At the very beginning, we can create API endpoints in the API management without having any backend. So we can hard code and mock API responses to be consumed by developers, for front-end developers. So we do not have a backend API, but we can create sort of orchestrate an API response within the API management instance itself and can be consumed by the front-end developers. We should be able to publish APIs with revisions and versions as well. API management should allow us to monitor and analyze the usage, performance, and issues so we can design our next version of the API. API management should allow us to optimize our APIs as well. Our backend API may be a legacy one, or we might not have access to improve the backend API. That backend API may be developed by someone else, and we don't have access to optimize that API. Then it is the responsibility of the API management service to improve those APIs. Our solution should be able to enhance the security as well, isn't it? So for the entire API or the information that it transmitters. So we have to enhance the security of the API, backend API as well. API management solution and the underlying APIs should be able to scale with the varying demand as well. And the APIM solution should be able to intercept the communication and enforce policies and guidelines to again improve the security and compliance. Finally, the API management solution should be able to govern and manage operation from the creation to the retirement of API. So entire lifecycle management is now a responsibility of API management solution. We can we can group those features that we discussed earlier into three core components. First one, the management plane is responsible for the lifecycle management of APIs, creation, modification, versioning, that is management plane, right? The API gateway plane is responsible for the communication with backend services and deliver information complying with policies. The last one, which is the developer portal, is the sort of workbench dedicated for developers who would use our APIs. Now let's talk about Azure API Management Service. This diagram is almost identical to the one we saw, isn't it? Azure API Management can consume APIs published in any place, including Azure services like App Service or Function Apps. So those are services provided by Azure itself. Or they can be hosted externally to Azure. Our API backend APIs can be hosted in an on-premises environment or any other cloud provider. It has a management plane, API gateway, and a developer portal, as we discussed earlier. If you can see, it has three core components here. The entire ecosystem is heavily assisted by various Azure services like Azure Monitor, Application Insights, VNets, Frontdoor, and many more. Right. We will first how management plane discuss few management plane activities like how to create API, how to version, revision APIs. APIM provides many options to create APIs. The easiest one that I like would be the HTTP, where we can manually create an API and their operations. Alternatively, we can import an API and its entire operation. You can remember an API can have many get, put, post operations, right? So we can import an API with its operations using its open API definition. If you are supplied with the Swagger definition, then you can directly import it in the API management instance API plane. If you check the diagram in the right-hand side, it will show various steps in an API lifecycle, which is supported by Azure API Management Service. You can see we first design the APIs. I said we can mock APIs without any backend. We can design the API within the API Management Console, and then we can develop API, secure it using whatever the authentication and authorization protocols provided, publish, scale, then we can monitor our API and API management solution using Azure Monitor and Application Insights. Again, with using same services, we can analyze. Again, we can go for the next iteration of the revision or version. Likewise, it keeps going this way. Before we go to a demo, let's discuss two important concepts quickly. The first one is products, which we can think of as a container that we can hold one or many APIs. The next one is subscription, which is a property that allow the API to know the caller. for an API, there can be multiple callers, right? It can be called by person A, group B, or product C, likewise. So in order to identify the caller, we use the subscription key. Ideally, we create the subscription at the product level, as you can see in this diagram. It is possible to create a subscription in user or API level, but very hard to manage if you do that way. Suggested to do it in the product level. So if you can see the diagram here, you can see multiple APIs are grouped in products. You can have, let's say in this scenario, two products. Let's say this is a VIP product and this is our basic product, which has a subscription, sort of a subscription key, and can be assigned to developers or group of developers. So when they call the API, they have to, if enforced, if that security is enforced, they have to supply the subscription key. Then the API can understand where are they coming from. So we can assign whatever the policies that are required, right? With that thought, we can quickly navigate to uh, a demo. Okay, let me open it up. Right. This is my API management instance that I have already created. We have multiple pricing tiers. I'm using the developer. So if you are trying it out, developer is a very good chance place to start. You can use the developer version. So first we can go to APIs, and I will show how to create one from HTTP. So let's use this one as our API. We can fill the display name as, let's say, Star Wars, and the URL we can supply the URL. It can be internal, it can be within Azure, it can be outside. This time I'm using HTTP, so it doesn't matter where it locates. And we can say it is Bravo, and you can assign product. So this is important. This product, this API is available in starter and unlimited products. Which version? So I prefer query string, but you can use path-based as well. So if it is query string 1.0, likewise, you can specify the version and create. I have already created that one, so I will not create it again. Then I will show you how to create an API with the open API definition. You can click here. I think I have some open API spec. We can just put the URL here and it should populate whatever the considerations here. So you can open it. One important fact here. Let's say my API is HTTP, but what we can do is we can make our caller our API specification to accept only HTTPS. I will show in a demo later as well. So we can select our API to be only HTTPs, or if you are okay, you can use both as well. Again, you can put whatever the products that you would like to have, and you can version your API according to your needs as well, right? So here I have my API, which is the Star Wars one, and let me show how to revision a API. So API creation is very simple. You just need to follow the workflow. That's all. Revision is an important element. You make revisions if you don't have any breaking changes. So you do not have API versions as such, but it would be a revision inside API management, API instance itself. So you can go to revisions and you can add a revision. You can say maybe adding caching. That would be my revision. Then you can do whatever the changes within API M console. You can add your caching. I will show during my demonstrations how to do that piece as well. But still, it is not the current version. In order to make it the current version, you can just make current option. So your revision would be the current version, right? And for the versions, what you can do is you can go to our calculator option here. You can just add version, click on add version. You can put 2.0 and follow the workflow. It would add another version. So I have for my other APIs, I have multiple versions. For an example, in this food API, I have one version. The version one points to the backend API with V1. And if you go to the 2.0 version, it will show the V2. So you can point to multiple versions of your API in backend. Right. Let's go to the backend, the calculator solution again. So if you can see here, my calculator solution uses HTTP in here, but it externally it would be accessed with HTTPS only. Let's go to products that we had discussed. If you can see here, I have three products at the moment. The first one is starter, test, and unlimited. If you go to starter, it has subscription to these APIs. Food API, it has subscription to two versions, health API likewise. And let's go to the next one, the unlimited version. It has subscription to multiple APIs as well. And this is the subscription that I had mentioned. Easy to manage if you manage subscription at product level. So you have subscription keys. You show, you can see I can get the subscription key, and in the header, when I call the API, I can pass the subscription key. Then our API knows that this call is coming from the unlimited product. So then it can do the orchestration or whatever the filtration according to the product. We'll do a demonstration on that as well. What else? So we discussed about APIs, products, and subscriptions. Perfect. Let's move to the presentation again. Okay, give me a minute. Right. Let's move to the next pillar, which is the developer portal. So it is like a fully customizable web application that exposes products and APIs to developers. It allows developers to sign in with various authentication providers, subscribe to products, and try out APIs, refer to API documentation. It would be the workbench for developers. Let's quickly check the developer portal as well. So let me go to the developer portal from administrator's perspective. So in our API M instance itself, um, let's go to the developer portal overview, click on the developer portal. So, okay. So this is a sort of a customizable web application that you have. You can change anything. You can change the icons, your name, icons, and whatever the pages that you want to do. And after you complete it, you can just publish it. Once it is published, let's say the view, let's see the view from uh, a normal user, like a guest user in this scenario. So this is the view from guest user, and he can see whatever the APIs that he has access to and whatever the products. If you can see here, the unlimited product is not accessible to guest user. That's why they cannot see unlimited and test products. He can access only the starter product, and they can sign in and sign up as well. I have integrated Azure Active Directory, so users can either sign up with normal username and password, or they can use their Azure Active Directory credentials as well. Right, perfect. Let's move back to the presentation again. Now let's move to the next pillar, sort of a API gateway pillar. Specifically, how can we use policies to achieve gateway operations? If you can remember, what gateway does is gateway creates the link between the backend API and the API management and the developer. And additionally, it has certain gateway operations as well. So I think this as the sort of heart of the API management. Policy normally allows to intercept requests or responses and modify behavior of APIs. We can have legacy APIs. We can integrate. We can make them enriched with whatever the policy and governance concerns that we have. We can have inbound policies, backend policies, outbound policies, as well as error policies. We can add policies by adding them as widgets. So you don't need to write much code here. You can add them to your API operation or API. And the other way is where you go to the editor and add policies as in plain text. Furthermore, you can get some assistance from Azure Copilot as well. Right. We can add policies at multiple levels. We can add policies like logging at the global level, which will be applicable to entire product set. Then we can apply policies like quota and rate limiting at the product level. Furthermore, we can apply policies to entire APIs or specific API operations like get, put, or whatever the operations that you have. We can apply policies at that level too. And we can apply policies like caching, setting the body of the response, and many more. We can see some of them in action as well. Let's bring the solution again. Give me a moment. Right. So let's go to the API management and my APIs. First, I will show one at the product level. So I will go to the product and let's go to starter product. This is the default configuration as well. If you go to policies, you can see there are some inbound policies already added, like rate limit calls 10. So that means in a minute, a user can call the API, call only 10 APIs. Then they would get an exception if they do more than 10. And another one is quota. This is, for, I think, 1 week. For 1 week, they can hit 1,000 requests if they are using the starter product, right? And probably in our unlimited product, we might not have any policies at all. Let's check that one. Yes, it is blank. So we have policy configurations filtering only at the starter product at the moment. You can create whatever the policies that you would like to as well. So for an example, if you go here, if you go to policies, you can either add, click on this, then you will be given multiple options. This, not only this, you can add many more as well. So if you can see, there are more than 50 policies that you can apply, right? That is at the product level. So let's go to the API level policy filtration. We'll go for the calculator product, right? Give me a moment. So in calculator product, we do not have any policies at the moment. What we can do is, let's get our friend, which is Postman, to the action as well. Okay. Okay, it crashes. That's a good sign. That's not a good sign. Okay, not a problem. So we can, what we can do is we can go to the test and add integers. So this is also a good point where you can do your testing at the API management itself. You can just click send. Let me bring the Postman. Okay. Right, if you can see here, it returns the response. If you can see, it is returning in XML, right? Which is not ideal. I want it to be JSON. So what I would do is I will go to the revision. So what I have done is I have written the code already and make it as a revision. So I can make it alive. So previously, if you can remember, we didn't have any policies, but if I make this as the current version and go to the design, you can see I have XML to JSON option already there. So let's bring the Postman. Okay, hope it would work. Calculator. Here you can see now it is coming as JSON. And if you can see here, we are calling it using our HTTPS endpoint. If you try with HTTP, it will not allow me to hit it. But if you can see, my backend is HTTP. So that's one security enhancement that we had done. Let's try another example. Okay, let's go to our health API. So for this one, I'm using a public API, which is the Corona virus, the COVID API. So sort of a bulky API. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to showcase with two subscriptions in one subscription. Let's say the starter subscription. It doesn't give entire payload. I need to hide some fields. But for the ultimate product, unlimited product, I will show everything. Let's say the ultimate unlimited product is given to my VIP customers with every information, but I need to limit some of the fields for some products. Or maybe let's say in a security, as a security enforcement for junior developers, I might mask certain products, certain fields, or I just need to hide certain information. So that's what I'm trying to do. Let's see what we can do. So again, I will try with the Postman. I have starter product with the starter subscription key and unlimited product with the unlimited subscription key. In my starter, the both the products, because I have not done any changes. Now I can see the field, death field, right? In the unlimited product also, I should be able to see the death field here. It is, I can see it now. Let's do the change. I will go to the uh, specific API version that I would like. And in this time, I will go to a specific API operation. Previously, for the calculator, um, I use the entire operation. So it would send everything in JSON. But this time I will go to a specific operation and I would add my policies. This time also, since I have limited time, I have done that change in a revision. So let me bring that version again. So what I'm doing is I'm hiding the death field for starter. So I'm allowing it only for unlimited product. Let's make it current. Go to the design, go to the specific endpoint. You can see now I have couple of uh, policy statements, right? If you can see here, there is a condition operation that I'm doing. So you can be very creative. You can do whatever the logic that you would like. There's a pretty good documentation from Microsoft as well. So you can refer and you can try with the Copilot. Currently it is disabled for some reason. So what I'm doing here is if the status code is 200, that means it is successful, and the product name is not unlimited, then I will do the filtration. So I'm getting the response, and I'm doing the filtration on the raw data collection. If you see here, sorry, it's my Corona data set is under the raw data collection, and I'm simply removing the deaths field, right? Let's see if it is working. Let's bring the postman again. I will try with the unlimited. So there should not be any blocker. I should be able to see the deaths. Okay. Here I can see deaths here because I'm on unlimited product. How I am on unlimited product? Because I'm sending the subscription key of unlimited product. And let's try with the starter product again. Let's see here, I don't have the deaths field now for everything because I'm applying that policy to entire raw data collection. And I can do some other things as well because I have the control to change the body. I can probably mask the longitude and latitude, put some excess there. We can do that as well, right? Okay, let's go again. Yeah, maybe I can try with the next one, which I have applied caching as well. Okay. If you can see here, I have added cache lookup. So since it is a large collection, if I cache it, it would be there for that specific time period. So let me show you that as well. So it will be there for 15 minutes, sorry, 15 seconds. Right. Let's go back to the presentation again. Let's talk specifically about the security. For me to work on API lifecycle as a publisher, like publishing new API or increment a version, I need to log into Azure using my Azure credentials. So that's how it secures itself for publishers normally. when we consider secure deployment, because this is not the first time, let's say for a large organization might have multiple environments and API releases can be very regular. It's not easy to do it within the within API management console within Azure portal all the time. So we should have a deployment mechanism. There are two areas we need to focus on. First one is the normal API deployment. We can use DevOps pipeline with Azure DevOps or GitHub with necessary security measures. The next one, it's sort of a new concept, is API Ops, which will be used to publish changes that we do to Azure API management to other environments like test or production. So we do our changes in one environment, maybe using the API management console itself, and we use what one called extractor pipeline, which will be used to extract the content from the development API management instance. Let's say we do multiple policy statements, configurations, then we use extractor pipeline to extract from one, let's say, development API instance and populate the DevOps repository within Azure DevOps or can be GitHub. Then we can use the publisher pipeline, the next one, to securely populate changes to other environments. We can have gates, we can have approvals to multiple environments. It would be pipelines and releases. So we can do that as well. That's how we normally secure the publisher portion of API management. The next one is like the security provided for the developers on the developer portal. As we saw earlier, we can integrate with various authentication providers, including classic username and password to Azure AD. Furthermore, we can provide different access levels by placing our APIs in products and subscription. Then we can use the policies to conditionally deliver information like we saw for the health API. Let's quickly see in the developer portal, portal overview. So if you can see here, I have already integrated the Azure AD, Entra ID. That's how you can see the Azure AD as the login option. And we can add other authentication provider, mostly the AD B2C. Other options are, I think they are like deprecated. Most of them like Google, Facebook, but you can do username password, Azure Active Directory, Azure AD B2C. You can use those authentication options for developers. And previously, so you saw that we can do another level of security using products and subscription keys. We can secure our APIs for consumer applications as well. We can do that by integrating various authentication and authorization mechanisms. If you can see here, we can use key, API key, we can use OAuth2, OpenID, client certificate, and there are many other options as well. Let's see how we can secure an API using OAuth2 by using Entra Azure AD app registration. So again, let me go to the Azure portal. Right. So I think I have perfect. So I will show in this example, I will show how to create an OAuth2 service in Azure AD with the help of Azure AD. And we create that service in our API management instance. And with app registrations, then we can secure an unauthenticated legacy API. So let's first try this one before we configure anything. Let's go to our API management instance again. we are trying to secure an API called, let's say, food API. Okay, let's try. We are trying to secure this food API. Let's try with Postman now. We do not have any authentication at the moment. If we hit it, it should work. So that means it doesn't require any authentication, and from Swagger itself. So I have this operation here. This is the same API I'm using. And let's try without anything. It should give me the response here, right? It is not authenticated. Our backend API is unsecured at the moment, right? What we are trying to do is we use that food API as our use case and try to secure it with OAuth2. To build the that service, OAuth2 service, I will use this documentation as the guideline. Probably we can share this documentation later with the slide set. So I'm using this as a guideline. It's very comprehensive. It details step by step instructions here. For this task, I need to have two app registrations in Azure AD, one for the backend service, which is our food API, and one for the client who calls our API. So there should be two app registrations. In our first app registration, let's go to our app registration. So I have already created two app registrations here. We will first go to the backend one. This is the backend service. We will create a scope in the expose API section. We'll go to expose API section, and I have created a scope here, which will be used in the authorization. And then we'll navigate to the next app registration, which is my client, and we will assign that scope to this app registration. We'll go to the API permission. I have already added this scope that we have created in our previous step and provided the admin consent as well. Then we go to the certificate and secret section, and I have generated a client secret as well. So we have done two steps, and that's pretty much we have to do from API. The app registrations point of view. So if you need to get more information like API endpoints or anything, you can go to the app registration, click on this one. So you can get those URLs from here, which will be important in our next step. Right. Now we have to go to the API management instance, go to the OAuth2 plus OpenID Connect, and we are adding OAuth2 service here. I have created one already, but if you need to add from the scratch, you can do it from here as well. I just click here. Right. So this is the name of my service, and you can just put the client registration page URL as localhost because we are not using it. And if you can remember, I showed in the endpoint sections, this is the authorized endpoint, and we have to use the tenant ID here, my tenant ID. How to get the tenant ID? Go to one app registration, probably. This is my tenant ID, so we can get it from there. And I'm using the authorization code flow. There are multiple other options, but we'll stick into the simplest option in this scenario. And this is the scope that I have created in the previous section. and this is the client ID in my this is my, you have to go to the client application. Sorry, uh, this is the client ID of the client at registration, which I have mentioned here, and the certificate and secrets. This is the client secret that I have embedded in here as well. Then we need to get the callback URL, and we have to apply it in our the client application. We have to apply that callback URL here as well. So those are the only changes that we have to do from the token generation point of view. Now it is completed. That means the API management perspective, sorry, the token generation part is over. We have completed the the auth to service. Let's go back to the API management instance. Let's go to the API, food API version 1.0. Then go to settings. Then what I will do is I will select auth 2 here, and I can use this our auth 2 service from the drop down list, right? I don't remember if I have executed it already. Yes, I have executed with no authentication previously. Let's apply it now, but that is not everything. Now what we have done is we have integrated the authentication provider, but it would accept any token. We need to validate the token as well. So in order to do that, I have already done that option as well. Let's bring up that version of the API management service. Go to the design. Here, there's a validate token option, validate JWT option here. What I have done is I have just added this statement, validate JWT policy, and it is authorization. If it is not a proper token, it would send 401, and this is the OpenID configuration URL, and this is my tenant ID here, and I need to embed the client ID. What I have done is I went a little bit extra here. I have done this as a configuration and made it an entry in my keyword. I thought maybe my client ID is a secure information rather than hanging it in my policy. I I hosted it in my keyword. Let me show that as well quickly. Uh, in API management, there's something called named values. In named values, I have created a value called food auth client ID, which is taken from keyword. There are multiple options. I can just put it in the name value option as a plain text, or I can obtain the value, same value from the keyword as well. So let me go to the keyword as well, just to show you. Maybe I will go to, I don't need this anymore. Let's go to my home keyword. And in my secrets, I have the client ID here. So the connectivity happens using managed identity. I don't need to do anything else. It would handle automatically, right? Right. Where was I? Okay, I was at the API, food API 1.0. I already added the auth to service. Then let's see. This one is also okay. Right, now it's a matter of just hitting the endpoint, right? Let's try with this. Right, perfect. So I'm getting an unauthorized response because I have not added any token here. So what I have done is in my Postman collection itself, in the authorization tab, I have I'm using the OAuth 2.0, and I am giving the callback URL, same URLs, callback URL. This is my auth URL and client ID, client secret, scope. That's pretty much it. So we can obtain a access token from here. Successful. I got a token. Let's try with inherit from parents. Fingers crossed. Perfect. So now the backend API is authenticated. So let's go back to our presentation. Okay. Last but not least, let's see how we can secure our backend APIs as well. So we discussed three areas: uh, how to publish, how developers use it, and how consumers use our APIs using API management. Now we are going to the last step where we the relationship between the API gateway, API M instance gateway option with the backend service. How can we secure that? If it is an Azure resource like app service, we can implement access restrictions, which blocks my service to be accessed directly. So if you can remember, let's bring that quickly as well. This is hosted in Azure Web App. My food API is hosted as a web app and can be easily accessible using its public endpoint. But ideally, what we can do is uh, we can implement access restrictions which allow only the API management instance to consume that API. We can do that one. Uh, Further, we can hook our API M instance to a virtual network with private endpoint. So we can remove the public access from our API management service. Normally with API management, we have a public address, which can be accessible over the internet, right? But what we can do is as per the diagram, we can hook our API gateway to a private virtual network with private IP address, and we can remove the public access. So the general public cannot see my API gateway instance. Furthermore, we can make our backend hosted in Azure, like let's say function uh, app service hosted in Azure to utilize private endpoints as well. So in that scenario, we will not have public endpoints, public IP addresses for these items like app services or stuff. Then it is not accessible over public internet. With this approach, we can avoid public access to anything in our solution. Everything will follow through Microsoft backbone network through using private IP addresses. So most of the attacks we should be able to avoid with this scenario. Let's quickly go to the our API web app. Go to this is our app service. This is one of our backend services. Go to networking. Okay, click on access restrictions. Currently, there's no restriction. It is open. If you can see, it is enabled for all networking. What we can do is we can enable from selected network and deny everything else. And we can add a filter, add a rule to accept only our Azure API management instance. So if we go to our API management instance, this is our public address in this scenario. So what we can do is we can add that endpoint for the moment. This is if you are not integrating this with private endpoint, but if you are integrating API management also to the private endpoint, then we can use just the private IP address. But in this scenario, we can just copy this one, go to access restrictions, add and just specify the IP address. So it will allow only from my API management instance, and it will disable access. It will give me forbidden 403 if I am accessing it from any other location. Perfect. Right. I want to conclude the session by showcasing the bigger picture where the API management is an important piece. API management is a regional solution. So let's say if you have multiple regional uh, spokes, for an example, this is spoke, let's say this is in East Australia, similar land zone can be in Australia Southeast as well, right? So for each of those region, each of those spokes, we have to integrate API management instance. And we can place something like Azure Front Door with web application firewall to provide secure public connectivity to our solution. Remember, we discussed about private endpoint. So internal connectivity for API management to our backend services would be done through private endpoints. So there will not be any public access to my API management instance or app services. It would be within virtual network and will be exposed only through front door and front door, which would be secured by web application firewall policies. And we didn't have time to discuss about the monitoring part. It is integrated with application insight. So end-to-end transaction you can trace and check for any performance improvements or any failure analysis. Right. That's pretty much it. That makes the end of the presentation. I'm happy if you have any questions.
Hey, Dinusha, thank you very much. That was fantastic. Comprehensive, presentation and demo. You started from, from scratch to how to, create it and how to publish it, how to secure it, and how to utilize it, how to, do the versioning on them. That was fantastic, and I guess people just made benefit from that. So of course, in one session, in 1 hour, it is not, enough to go through all the details, and it is just a demo and. Of course, some hints on how you can start your learning. Of course, for more information, for more learning about that, you can always just visit Microsoft Learn website. So we've got some questions here, Dinusha. I will just bring them up and you can just answer them. So from Sasanya, you can read that and go for it. It was asked, in the very beginning of the session.
So the question is it similar to the ingress concept in Kubernetes, or I get it wrong? So it's maybe something similar, but I can add on to that. So Kubernetes, let's say you have multiple Kubernetes, you have Kubernetes environment, and let's say you bring up multiple microservices there. So that is your internal backend solution, right? But if you want to expose your backend solution to front-end application, maybe you can have mobile application, or you can have other applications that consumes your microservices. You can, in the mediator level, in the middle part, you can add the API management instance as a facade. So you can have your Kubernetes environment, which exposes microservices in like local level. So that means it's in your environment, in your private level. Then you do the orchestration at the API management level and add any policies and any missing pieces there, because you might have that Kubernetes solution as one, right? But you might have any other solutions, any other APIs and data points in your organization and externally that you are interested with. So that would be your API ecosystem. So it's beneficial. I have seen in many cases you have Kubernetes as the backend, API management as the facade, and you have front-end applications. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah, hopefully. The next question from Navid. Is it possible to add API and other implementations with IAC like
Definitely.
Terraform or Bicep?
Yeah, definitely. So as you nailed it. So you can use Terraform or Bicep for the API. I mean the infrastructure piece. So that's how normally it works in organization, right? So let's say a corporate world, we have multiple environments. We multiple environments for our workloads. We have development, test, UAT, pre-production, production. Likewise. So you do the infrastructure as a code piece for the API management. It is available. We are using it now in Bicep or Terraform. You do it one time, and you do the pipelines to deploy it in other environments. It's supported.
Awesome. And the last question, but not least, we've got from Miguel. The question regarding the
Yes. Can I
authentication.
create a Azure policy definition in order to leverage Azure Active Directory as an identity provider for authenticating users? Right. So I'm think little bit confused here. Maybe I will rephrase the question, or maybe I will give an answer from my knowledge. So Azure policy definition is something else. It's in Azure policy, right? So this is the policies that I'm referring here is APIM policies. They are not related. Azure policy you can put for the entire ecosystem. So for an example, what region that you want your API instance to be in, or in very general level, what areas that your app services to be in one what SKUs, you can do it using Azure policy. But APIM policy is like only restrictive, only implemented within Azure API instance itself. So it regards API operations like request response, errors, and backend operation. So in order to achieve the connectivity, as I mentioned, like implementing OAuth, you just need to go through the APIM policy, not the Azure policy. Hope I answered your
Awesome.
question as well.
Awesome. So I hope all questions are answered. If there is any more question, we can just wait a little bit more to see if there is any. And otherwise, we can just wrap up the session. Thank you very much for your time, Dinusha. It was very late or very soon for Dinusha. It is now around 3 a.m. In his side. Is located in Perth, Australia. Thank you, Dinusha, for making yourself available for this session. We do really appreciate it. And for those who couldn't make it and or just joined the session late, of course, the session is recorded and it will be available immediately on a YouTube channel. And you're more than welcome to just rewatch it or just watch it again. And that's it. Thank you very much. And we can just wrap up the session and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yes. Bye bye.